Let's go within. Take a long breath, long inhale. And with the sound, release the air with exhale. The question that arrived today is why the desire for validation is an invitation to suffering, and why it points to the absence of truth. First of all, the question is, who wants validation? What aspect within you wants validation? And what aspects of you want to be validated in exclusion of others? For example, when we say, I want to be seen, I want to be heard, I want to be acknowledged, you don't want your greed to be seen. You don't want your jealousy to be seen. You don't want your envy to be acknowledged, anger to be acknowledged. That's not what you want. What you want is acknowledgement of those qualities that you cherish. So you don't want the entire validation. You want validation of your perceptions of good within you, in exclusion of that which may be not so necessarily good, if we label it that way. So what you want to build an identity, and then you want to enforce others into buying into this identity. So basically, you want to live in lie. Because if I say, well, yes, I see your generosity, and then another day I say, I can see that you're a jealous person, and you'll get angry. Right? So you'll want to defend some aspect of yourself. You want them hidden. You don't want the truth of you. You want partial truth. You only want partial truth, which is lie, in a sense. So you want to live in lie, and you want to enroll others in your lie. And when they don't subscribe to it, you get angry. When I say you, of course, I mean people in general. You might have some other reactions. So the dynamic is interesting. Do you want to live in truth, or do you want to live in lie? And when you hide some aspects of yourself from yourself, every time that they point it to, you suffer. And your reactions cause suffering in others, because conflict is suffering. Anger breeds conflict, and conflict is suffering. So your desire for validation causes separation within you. That versus that, bad versus good. It causes fragmentation. And then it causes the same in your relationship, because you want to compartmentalize your relationship. You want them to touch only that which you cherish within you, not the whole of you. And that's even, we scratched our face only with that, because when you say you, in that particular conversation, we mean personality, identity, that which is phenomena, that which is transient, that which is arising. We don't even mean self. Because when it comes to absolute truth, that which you are, beyond your formed personality, beyond your identity, beyond your thoughts, constructs, beyond all that, you are that essence of life. That I am, I as existence, I as pure consciousness. Now, is there anything separate from anything or anyone separate from anyone? Is there any aspect of the self that needs to be seen more than other when everything is one? Is there anybody there who needs validation from another when there is no this one and another one? There is no person to be validated and no person to validate them. So as soon as we start this game of relationship, of validation, we are in separation. We are in separation from the self. We make ourselves believe that we are separate from the self, we are separate identity. And we also separate from another being, because we establish right now with them subject-object relationship. And on a very human level, it's impossible to be with the person who wants validation all the time. It's this constant grasping for attention, constant demand of acknowledgement. It's so much attention on the self and not the self as the sense of I am that we are looking at, but I as a person. It's like a constant attention on I as a person. Look at me as a person. What do you think about me as a person? How do I look to you as a person? We are not grounded, we are not rooted in knowing who we truly are. We live in lie and we push this lie onto others, and then if they don't buy into that, we become angry. We attack. Very often, absence of validation provokes violence. Reaction to absence of validation is anger and violence very often. Or not even absence of validation, it's actually in true form validation. If I tell you today, your eyes are so beautiful, I love it, and you feel validated, right? You feel good. And then tomorrow you say, I see your envy and jealousy. If you want to be seen, that's supposed to feel good too, right? But it's not. It doesn't feel good, doesn't it? So then, I hate you. Instead of love, instead of extension of love, I see you. It happens that we provoke opposite. Now I hate you. You don't like me. You judge me. I hate you. And this hate is exactly the seed of violence, the separation that we create within ourselves, fragments of ourselves that we want to project onto the world in very different ways. They construct that particular lie that causes all form of conflict. And the relationship with the person who wants validation very often, and it might feel like they want constant validation, it's very volatile relationship. It's a relationship full of volatility, conflict, constant disagreement about things, seemingly, while the cause of disagreement are not about that objective reality expression. It's more about, but you don't like me, you don't see me, you don't appreciate me, you don't respect me. And people form all sorts of mental structures to use as evidence to that. For example, you interrupt me, you don't respect me. Well, the interruption is of one's stream of thoughts. And when a person goes on and on and on, presents all the mental constructs and all the false assumptions and judgments, and you dare to stop that chain of thoughts that leads nowhere, it's just the story is circling, then very often the logic goes, you don't validate my thoughts, you don't validate my judgments, you don't respect me. We form this very interesting cause and effect chain of thoughts, and there is no validity in them, really. There's no foundation. It's all made up. All made up for conflict. And then we come up with this interesting structure. You should validate me. You should see my pearls. You should say something that pleases me. You should. So there is demand on behavior of other. It's a form of manipulation of another to give us pleasure, to deliver us pleasure through constant reinforcement of some of our qualities in exclusion of others. Because you give me pleasure only when you acknowledge my good, so-called qualities. You give me pleasure, and you give me pain, how dare you, when you equally see the other qualities. Not so good, not so complementary to my identity. So, where to go with it if your childhood didn't offer you environment of love, environment where you were seen, where you were acknowledged? A lot of our need for attention formed there, but a lot comes from any other timelines, maybe. It's ancestral influences, it's in our DNA, it's our karma, if you wish. What to do with that if you feel strong desire for validation and it causes you and others disturbance? What to do? Well, there is only one thing to do, always. Turn within, but not within the person within you, not within personality, not within identity. Boundaries of identity not there. Within as to the self, to your true nature, to pure consciousness from which everything arises, including your personality, including your characteristics, all aspects of you, all arising in the form of a thought from pure consciousness, thoughtless, characterless, formless. And when you come back to that state, whether you need meditation as a practice for that, contemplation, creative expression, artists go there very often. The state where you as personality, as a person, get lost. And all there is just this constant arising energy of life. There you're whole. There we have no aspects of the person that dominate your attention, that wants to be seen and acknowledged. When you, instead of pure consciousness, you see all those elements of yourself as a person to be so insignificant because you see them as thoughts about yourself. And as any thoughts, they subside, they arise and they subside. And if we are aware of this dynamic of arising and subsiding, we don't cling to any thoughts, we don't give validity to our desire for validation. We don't impose this desire and need, it feels like it's a need. We don't impose it onto another. We don't create conflict within and without. We are whole, we return to wholeness. So the beautiful thing about noticing your constant desire for validation is treat it as invitation to come home. Anytime you want someone to validate you, it's a little voice within you, the voice of truth, saying, honey, come back to me. Come back home. Come back to who you truly are. You're not that. You're not that person with beautiful blue eyes. You're not that person who's generous. You're a person that everything, there's everything contained within you. And everything you never even knew that you contain, never could imagine, because the essence of you is consciousness that contains every living form on this planet and beyond, in this universe and beyond. The essence of you is eternal, it's beyond time, it's beyond place, beyond form. It's eternal. It's spaceless. When you come and practice meditation with us, you notice the difference of angle of perception. You stop looking at yourself as a person who needs anything at all. You just bask in that energy that make you alive. The energy of ultimate unconditional love. Because there is nothing not to love. There is nothing separate from you ever. And when you are in the person, when you look at self as a person, that cannot sound true. It sounds like some sort of mumbo jumbo. How can I be everything? It's just words, it's just new age stuff. Well, don't take anybody's word for it. Experience for yourself directly. Go within so deeply, where every thought ceases to exist. And when it does, then you experientially discover that you are neither of your characteristics of personality. You even will feel that your body is not felt when you go deep in the state of nirvana. Call it samadhi, call it Christ consciousness, call it Buddha consciousness, call it enlightenment state, the moment at least, momentary state of enlightenment. Just state of pure consciousness, that's it. Unpolluted by thoughts, concepts, needs and desires, projections. Unpolluted, completely unpolluted, pure and clean, pure consciousness. It's very healing to come to that place, to remind yourself, remind realization that you keep doing, you keep realizing it, you keep practicing if you need to be taken through practice to that place. And at some point you don't need any practice, it just happens. The life will kick you back into the self, because every time you see, you bump against, you face your untruth of any kind, that which you are not, as soon as you bump into that which you are not, and it usually happens through relationships, very often through relationships, because another person mirrors to you. It reflects all your illusions and deceptions of the mind. You're so loved, yet you always beg for love, you demand love, you fight for love. But that which fights for love is not loving. It knows no love. How can it? Love is not partial. Love is all-inclusive. It's unconditional. It's the fabric of life. What is there to validate? It just is. The blood runs through my veins. What is there to validate? I just know it is. I see wrinkles on my face. They just are. What is there to validate or devalidate? They just are. I hear my heart beating. It just does. It seemingly does. When desire for validation becomes strong, it's an invitation to come back to what you truly are, not what you imagine in the moment to be and want the world to see you as. Because the world will not comply to your manipulation. Some might pretend they do, but ultimately, the world doesn't care so much about what you think about yourself. And for you, you should care about it only to the degree that it's a pointer It's a pointer to all the illusions and self-deceptions. It's a pointer to come back to that which is permanent within you and true, not which is false, and that which causes you suffering is not true. Because suffering is always the result of wrong perception. No matter what kind of wrong it is. It's simply wrong if it causes you suffering, because the fabric of life is well-being. And all conflicts are only in the eyes of the perceiver. Just as beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. All is matter of perception. Completion is unconditional. It's non-phenomenal. The wholeness is non-phenomenal. It's the whole. It's the one. It's complete. Forever. Ever been. So when desire for validation arises, don't try to solve it from out there. Don't reach out to people to get that validation. Don't ask or don't demand, don't expect. Instead, just notice, oh, I want validation right now. I am in the wrong perception of who I am at the moment. I perceive to be this person right now. So instead of going out there and asking for validation, gathering all the attention, instead of doing this external outreach, reach out within to remember who you truly are. Don't attack another being and don't attack yourself as an imaginary person. Don't attack. Become still, go within, reach in, and then reach out from another place. Place of contentment, peace, love. And then you can add many colors to it. Creativity, joy, excitement, whatever you want. It can take form, but now it can take very different form. You probably will not choose consciously anger any longer. You want to choose attack. And you have choice, you always have choice, you choose. You choose how you feel. You choose what relationship you have with the world. Because you create that world. The world is within you. So, may we all co-create beautiful, peaceful world in which we find ourselves to experience unity, connection, compassion, and love. May I find you there.